There's one argument in particular from the frog that I want to give some unique attention to, one that I've never seen before used by Jesus mythers, which doesn't make it any less ridiculous. The argument goes like this. The word disciple is not used by any of the New Testament epistles, only in the Gospels. The word apostle is used only rarely in the Gospels, but more commonly in the epistles. This, we're told, is exactly what we would expect to find if the Jesus myth theory were true. Oh, really? Now let's take care of some big excuses the frog makes for the uses of apostle in the Gospels. He gets rid of the references in Luke and Acts by dating those documents to, the 2nd century. Now, since he doesn't give a single argument for this, there's not much I can say except that that's the sort of fringe lunacy it takes to support fringe lunacy like the Jesus myth. If he ever presents some real arguments for dating Luke Acts to the 2nd century, we'll talk about them. That leaves what we find in Matthew and Mark, and the excuse here is a whopper. According to the frog,
this sure smells like interpolation, sis.
Sorry, that smells more like bad scholarship to me. Now, it's true that with this reference there are some textual issues. Apparently the majority of early manuscripts do lack the phrase, whom he named apostles. But despite that, textual critics conclude that it does belong there, as explained in this note from Bible.org. Now once this is settled, that adds authenticity to these other two references, which have no textual issues at all. The only other excuse the frog can come up with is that because previous chapters all use disciples, it makes no sense for them to switch gears and call them apostles. Well, hold on a minute. What he forgets is that there are other references to this select group, but he's missing them because he's only looking for one word. Each time Jesus refers to these 12 as a unique group, that signifies a different strata within his in-group, and so it's functionally just the same as referring to them as apostles. But really, the whole argument is bogus for other reasons, from the other direction. Let's take the word disciples. The frog says that this word isn't used in the epistles because there was no earthly Jesus to disciple anyone. But that doesn't make a difference. As shown in this reference, the word disciple wasn't limited to people presently on earth. But more importantly, there's a social reason for the dichotomy in usage between these two words. The position of disciple is reflective of what social science scholars call a fictive kinship relation. By definition, a disciple is one who followed a teacher. By this I don't simply mean walked around behind them. The roles of teacher and disciple were kind of like father and son, and one of the chief goals was socialization. Now, it should be quite clear that if socialization was one of the critical functions of the teacher-disciple relationship, it's not all that easy to have that function without both of those elements present. So what that means is, once Jesus ascended into heaven, the office of being a disciple of Jesus went with him. To be sure, you could have disciples of some sort even after that, but these would reflect one of two things. Either an unusual usage, something on the order of disciples of Moses, as here, or potentially someone who is a disciple of some other in-group leader like Paul or Peter. Either way, that's a better explanation for why the word disciple never appears in the epistles. Much better than the so-called Jesus myth. You haven't got the slightest idea what I'm talking about, do you?